Now in this section I want to start the discussion on surface design, and for this I'm going to start with a simple example that use some tools from surface design tools. I'm going to create a bathtub that's going to be an old-fashioned one, so let's go to start menu, go to shape, and go to generative shape design. This is the environment that is quite similar to part design environment that we are used to working with that. So I click on OK for the part 1. Now you can see that there is no difference, not a big difference of course, between this environment and the part design environment. And now I'm going to start creating the profile. So I click on XY plane, go to sketch environment, and I want to have a rectangle with round corners. You can start using profile tool, or you can start with easier, approach using a rectangle tool. I want to make this a little big, so I zoom out many times. This is going to be a little big, so I draw this rectangle like this. Now I start using the corner, go click on the edge, click here, again, corner tool, edge. This is going to be a little hard to get it. Now this is the edge. No, this is not a little hard to get the edge. Again, the corner tool, clicking on the edge, clicking here, and corner tool, clicking on the edge and clicking here. Now these have two, big radiuses. I want it to be 120 for this one, and for each one I change it to 120 millimeters, and double click on this and make it 120. Now I want to add some constraint. I want to make sure that this is about 800 millimeters, and this is 1800 millimeters. So I type 1800 millimeters. Now I want to make sure that this is centered to my coordinates. So select the first line, press Ctrl button, select the second line, and select the symmetry line, and go to constraint define, activate the symmetry. Again, first one, press Ctrl, second one, and this horizontal axis, and again add symmetry. Now you can see that this is fully defined and this is centered to my coordinates axis. So I exit my workbench. The next thing I want to do is create a plane about 750 millimeters above this floor plane. So I go and select the plane from the reference toolset, and by clicking on this I make sure that this is offset from plane, and it's going to be 750 millimeters above the XY plane. So I click on this, click OK. Now the second plane is going to be selected, and clicking on sketch, it will take me to the sketch environment for the second plane. Now this is going to be quite similar to the shape, but a little bigger than this. So I draw another rectangle that is a little bigger than this, and select the corner tool to get the corners and create some corners here. These corners will have 220 millimeter of radius. So this corner is a little hard to get. I don't get why. So I click on here, click on corner, click here, again I click here. Now make sure that these are about 220 millimeter radius. So I double click each one of them and make sure that they are 220 millimeter. So 220 for this and 220 for the last one. This was a mistake. I double click on this and make sure that this is 220 millimeter. Now these lines are going to be the same as the original lines. They are going to be 1800 for here and 800 for here. So I change them. Now I make this center to my shape, so I click on the first line, the second line using the control button, and the third line, and add the symmetry here. Now I click on OK. Again, I click on the first line, the second line, and the horizontal axis, and go to define, constraint define. I'll activate the symmetry. Now you can see that I have two different profiles that are quite similar to each other, but the second one is a little bigger than the first one. So I exit my workbench. Up till now we have nothing new, but here we are going to select the tools that are used to create surfaces. So I go to insert menu, And under surfaces, you can find some very interesting tools. The first thing is multi-section surface. This is quite similar to the multi-section solid, but instead it creates surfaces out of the profiles that you select. So I click on multi-section surface and select the profiles in order. Of course, I have only two profiles. There is no special order for this. So I click on these two, click OK, and I can see that there is a surface between these two. And that's very nice to have these. Okay, I want to hide the sketches, sketch 1 and sketch 2, and also I want to hide the plane. Now I'm going to create the floor of this path, so let's select some, I want to select the ZX plane, and for this I go to sketch environment. Now let's pan a little bit to up and create a spline here. I select the spline and click some points here. For example, 5 points is going to be okay. 1 here, for example here, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's okay for me. Now I want to make sure that this is above the baseline, so I can grab it and move it up. But now I want to add some constraint instead of this, before taking this up. Okay, let's go and select the first point, press Ctrl, select the second point, and go and click on constraint tool. This is going to be about 600 millimeters, so I type in 600. Again, I select the second point, press Ctrl button, select the third point, make sure that this is about 500 millimeters. So I type in 500 here. The third point and fourth point are going to have about 400 millimeters of distance, so I type in 400. And again, the fourth point and the last point are going to be 700 millimeters away from each other. So I type in 700 here. Now I have this, I want to add some constraint to make sure that these points are above the baseline. I want to make sure that this center point has a symmetry with this vertical axis first of all. So I click these two, go to constraint define, and add a coincidence. Of course, the coincidence, not symmetry. I select the coincidence like this. Now I select this point and press Ctrl and select the horizontal vector. Select the constraint tool, make sure that this is about 50 millimeters. So I type in 50, but you can see that this is under the horizontal line. I want it to be above the horizontal line. So again, I double click on the constraint, click on more here, and swap location, make sure that this is above the horizontal line. So I click on OK. Now it's okay for me. I want to make sure that this point and the horizontal line are coincident. I click the horizontal line too. I can of course create a constraint and make sure that the distance is 0, or I can click on coincidence and make sure that they are coincident to each other. So I prefer the coincidence. So I click on OK. Again, this point and this horizontal line are going to be coincident. So I make sure that this is the same. Okay. Now that I have created this, I want to click on this point and the horizontal line and add a constraint. Make sure that this is about 150. And the last point is going to be 200 millimeters above the baseline. So I select the horizontal axis again and make sure that this is about 200 millimeters. Okay. Now I have my spline completely and fully defined. Now I exit my workbench and show you another tool here. Let's rotate a little bit using the shift and down arrow key. Now I have this. I go to insert menu, go to surfaces, and select extrude. Now you can see that extrude means creating surface and pad means creating a solid. In some softwares such as SolidWorks, these two are the same and they are, called extrude. So this is a profile that I want to extrude. You can make sure that the direction is correct, Z-X plane, and the dimension is 600 millimeters in one direction and again 600 millimeters in the other direction. So I click the preview, that's okay, that's what I'm talking about. So I click on OK now. My bathtub is somehow complete, but of course I have some extra edges that I want to trim them. In next section I want to show you how I can do this. First of all, I need to hide the sketch tree, and in next section I will continue.